I'm Rowan.
Hi, I'm Zach.
And this is the 7th episode of the 2nd season of In the Zone. So today we'll be talking about Nick of Time.
Which unfortunately does not star a Time Lord named Nick. That was
No.
very much what I thought was going to happen.
Okay. Right. So you can check it out beforehand because we're going to spoil the whole thing.
Everything.
All things.
So the first thing that we open with, well, we have the intro, of course, but like we've discussed that heavily.
I think we should decide which is the monologue and which is the intro because I feel like we kind of interchanged it.
Well, like just like the intro riff that they have every time. That's
Let's
what I
say,
mean.
I think I switch it up every time. You know, it doesn't really
The
matter.
opening monologue is what Rod Serling says, and then the intro is like the thing with like the theme song and like.
Yeah, but Rod Serling also says that.
Yeah, but like it's the thing that the opening monologue.
Let's call it the theme song.
Cool.
We see a car is being towed. There are two people in it,
Yeah.
a man and a woman.
She's wearing a very unfortunate dress. That was also the second. That was the second thing I noticed. It was like
Last
flannel.
thing I noticed. They get out of the car and they ask, the car repairman, how long? And he says 3 to 4 hours. And so they go to get some lunch.
And so here's the first thing that made me like really mad about the episode. Actually,
Expository dialogue?
No, not expository dialogue. But just, like, or maybe it was like expository dialogue. They just like kind of like had this whole romance scene on the sidewalk.
I don't like you like romance because you're jealous.
No, I'm like 13, Rowan.
Yeah, I'm
But, like,
jealous.
I thought it was just, anyways. I thought it was weird because like, first of all, like you don't get the car to repair, go off to lunch, and like say that. Like, that just seemed so odd.
What?
And secondly, it was like way too long. I thought.
Way too long for the car to get repaired.
No, way too long. Like for the romance scene, walking down the sidewalk.
It felt fine.
Also,
So we
how
get
did they know the way to the cafe? Like they were visiting in the town.
I don't know. They're just looking for a cafe.
Cool.
So they have some expository dialogue where it turns out they're newlyweds and a guy's going for a promotion. And expository dialogue isn't horrible in this. They go into a diner, the Busy Bee diner. She puts a dime in the jukebox and they dance, do some music.
Oh, but that was painful. That was a painful scene.
I feel like you just
Strange.
really didn't like this episode and you're looking for more things to not like.
Okay, cool.
And they see the mystic seer, a napkin holder that tells your future.
I thought this was a very weird plot device. Like, so imagine it in modern times. Imagine, like, 8-Ball. Replace the Mystic Seer with the 8-Ball and everything gets so much more hilarious, no? Like, he's, like, putting a dime in, but, like... No. The 8-Ball. Like, the Mystic Seer was the magic 8-Ball.
Yeah.
I, like, kind of imagined replacing it with the magic 8-Ball, and then it was even stupider than it was.
Okay, why was this stupid?
I don't know. I thought that the Mystic
Because it
Seer
had the
was
silly
a
face.
very strange plot device.
It's the plot.
Yeah.
It's like, I felt that the people disappearing and then when this guy was open, that was a weird plot device.
Okay, well, it was a weird plot.
Okay.
Not a weird plot device, a weird plot.
Puts in a penny. He says, does anything exciting ever happen around here? Where? It is quite possible.
Oh my god, it must be true.
We learned from Rodman Serling's intro that his name is Don S. Carter, and that's really all we learned from the intro.
I was very disappointed that his name wasn't Nick.
Yeah. Apparently, here's the double meaning of the name. Nick of Time, it's like, we got there right in the nick of time to get away from that truck. And also, the nick of time, like when you nick someone in the head, it's like time, ooh, it nicks me.
What?
It's the nick of time. I don't know, that's what they said.
Okay, I was very surprised to see, like, Rod Serling sitting there, because, like, you just pan over, and it's like, oh, that's him. Like, I thought it was going to be another customer, and then I'm like, oh, that's Ian Brown. Like, oh, that's Rod Serling.
Alright, so, fade to black, fade up, they order a tomato and lettuce salad, and
A sandwich.
sandwich, right. And so,
The waiter has a thing for chicken fried steak.
yeah, what's up with that?
What is chicken fried steak?
I don't know, that doesn't make any sense.
Like, I mean, I always feel like this is one of the things that, like...
Maybe it was like, maybe the guy, waiter, his character didn't have any substance, and there was like an inside joke on set that he would always eat chicken fried steak, so he made like a clever
I don't
improv.
know. I feel like it was meant to be funny.
Maybe. And he's just the worst waiter. He's like, they didn't even ask for recommendations, and they're like, how about a tomato and lettuce sandwich? And he's like, okay, do you want a
Nice
chicken
coffee.
fried steak? And they're like, no. And he's like, we have chicken fried steak. And they're like, yeah, we read the menu. He's like, okay, fine. Puts in another penny. Am I gonna be promoted for Pete's sake? Says, it has been decided in your favor. So he goes, oh, phone. And then this is a really cool beat. She's like, what? He's like, I was gonna anyway, wasn't I? It's like how I'm going to influence your score on this episode because I really like it. And you'll be like, 10! And I'm like, what? And you're like, I was gonna anyway. He calls, and the wife, visual storytelling, looks at his 4-leaf clover and rabbit's foot.
I thought that was her 4-leaf clover and rabbit's
Yeah,
foot.
it's quite confusing.
Which very much confused me later in the
Yeah.
episode.
And so,
Because I was like, wait, what? She's the biggest hypocrite I've ever seen.
yeah, like maybe she's like rubbing it to hope that he gets the promotion. I don't know.
And then like later she's like, oh, you're so superstitious.
Right. Turns out he got the promotion. Woo! Celebrates with another dime in the jukebox. So the food is brought, and he said, the horrible waiter says, you won't like this as much as the chicken fried steak. And he spits
What
their
is that?
food. But doesn't this make the episode more interesting than if he just said, here you go?
Yeah, I guess the waiter needed some lines.
So then he asks it another question. He asks, is this really going to take 4 hours? And it says, you may never know. Puts another penny. And at this point it says, Don is good at acting. He says, is something going to happen to change that? And it says, if you move soon. And at this point I wrote that the wife can also act, which is good. And so he says, just one more, because the wife is getting kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's very Franklin-y.
But what I thought was very odd is that I don't think she ever actually got outright angry.
No, she definitely did later on.
Yeah, but like I feel like it took her far too long to
I don't think it took her too long. I think it took her a
Okay.
realistic amount of time to
Cool.
realize that something's wrong. So he says, do you mean that we have to stay? And it says, no, that makes sense. And then he says, should we stay till 2:30? Try again. 3, no question about it. Then the wife becomes uncomfortable, and then she's like, let's look around town. He's like, every answer fits. So she's like, no more. And then he puts in one more. Says, if we don't stay until 3, will something bad happen? And it says, do you dare risk finding out?
So then like he tries to stall,
He
right?
asks if she wants ice cream.
And then like
And then we fade to 2:55, and he's finishing up his ice cream. And she's like, can we go? And he says, you want something cold to drink? Weird question. She says, yeah, let's go. So he
they
pays
already
and
had
leaves
ice
reluctantly.
Yeah, very reluctantly.
Right, and so they're walking. She's like, you didn't really want to stay. And he's like, no. She's like, really? And he says, it was so specific. She's like, it's just a napkin holder. What?
That's
Who
when I
bet?
learned that it was a napkin holder.
Promotion. Oh, he says, what about the promotion? And he's like, he says, don't say it. Superstitious. And and then he's talking about his superstition, like he goes, and you're all mine. Change the subject, hugs him. She's like, you keep looking around it, because he's like, very wordy, and he's like, dang it. I just have to keep saying the lines, he said, because it's a very dialogue-driven episode. He's like, am I?
Yeah, it's hard to take notes when it's dialogue driven.
Yeah. And so a truck is coming, and here's maybe the coolest part of the episode.
It was very convincing. I thought it was like he tackles her.
So here's what happens.
Yeah.
So he makes it seem like he saved her from a truck. But what really happens is he sees the truck coming, and he wants to prove to his wife that something bad's happening. So instead of staying there, just waiting for the truck to pass, he runs across and then is like, whoa, that was a close one. I guess it really was right. That's crazy. And it's so subtle, too.
I didn't notice it.
Too subtle.
Yeah.
And then the clock strikes 3.
Yeah.
And then I wrote, brilliant! She's like, what a strange coincidence.
Okay,
And
maybe
then
I didn't notice some subtle things.
Then they have this amazing conversation when she's like, it's just a coincidence. And he's like, well, if it's just a coincidence, then stop worrying. And she's like, I'm not worrying. Okay, then let's go to the diner. Fade to black. And then I wrote, brilliant! So they see that 2 old women are at the booth. So she's like, why don't you try another one? Like, you don't believe it, do you?
She wasn't very angry. Like, this is like the first time when she gets angry, like after him doing a lot of stupid things.
Like almost killing her.
Yeah.
And she's like, you don't really believe that it can foretell the future, do you? And he's like, it foretold ours. And then, right, so they order the iced coffee. And then here's a great part. It's really good. So he's like, when that car almost hit us, it was 3. Just like it said. And she's like, no, you said it was 3. So he asks, hey, got change for a dime? Hey, yes I do.
Actually,
Fried steak, it's like chicken fried steak. Then he gives him 10 pennies. And then the 2 old women leave, so they go back to the booth. He didn't know about the car. And then here's kind of a cool moment, not intentionally, but where he says, what do you think? And it was kind of ambiguous whether he's talking to the wife or that's literally what it says.
Oh yeah, I thought that it was a little bit, the strips kind of what they said. I don't know, I wouldn't really expect them to usually come out of a machine. Right? Like at the end we kind of said that the machine was random. But like, give me an answer. One of the answers that the machine said. The answer should be obvious, right? Like, wasn't there that?
Yeah, that's kind of one they would have. Like in the book of answers.
I feel like maybe they should have it, but there were just like quite a few, like, as he said, it was a bit of a coincidence for what they said in the end. Like, not the events that happened, but like these responses that wouldn't make sense for a lot of things that they asked made sense because when they came out.
Right, because it's ambiguous. It's slightly, well, I don't know.
Like
I mean, you can interpret it either
it's
way.
It's ambiguous whether the slot machine is trying to kill him or whether he's just
and in this
them.
one, it's ambiguous whether it actually can tell the future or if they're just reading too much into this.
Yeah.
And that's what's even cooler than the fever, because the fever hallucinations seem like... Here's the thing. Oh, I had it in my mind, and then it went out of my ear. And it's somewhere there.
Okay, should we go get a nap?
Let me get this thought together for a sec. It's more believable that they would be reading too far into this than it would be for someone to have hallucinations.
Okay, yeah.
Because he was awake for a long time in the fever, but you have to be awake for like 48 hours in order to...
Longer than 48. People like...
Dang it. I guess I've wasted all that time. And you know what's also cool? Every once in a while, he'll say one and then they'll be like, oh wait, no, that's not a yes or no question. Which just felt very realistic.
Natural, yeah.
And then at this point, the wife says, well, you could get the same kind of answers from any of these. And he says, the same kind, but not the same. Doesn't really make sense. And then he puts another one in. Will we reach New York all right now? Chances are good. And he says it so excitedly. The wife's like,
The wife's like, oh, this idiot. How am I gonna dump him?
And isn't the wife's performance here more layered and interesting than that of the wife in the fever?
Yeah, pretty much. But Flora Gibbs didn't do a good job of like Flora Gibbs was a very convincing frantic woman.
Very sympathetic.
In a show with a lot of frantic women, Flora Gibbs was a good frantic
so
woman.
was, well, I think most of them are good. Like, Nan Adams was good.
Nan Adams was a beautiful.
Marsha White.
That was a great performance.
So he says, so, will it really take 4 hours for the car to get repaired? And I forget what the answer says, but it has
already been done.
Okay, and then the garage guy. This part is a little improbable.
Just saying,
you follow them into the cafe.
So at Long Live Walter Jameson, it was like kind of a decent episode, and then at the end, it like sharply turned up with like a great closing to the episode, right?
So that's why I gave it a 10 because it was mostly a decent episode.
No, it was like mostly like a pretty good episode, and then at the end. It was like mostly like a pretty good episode, and then at the end it was like very good. Like just for the final the final 5 minutes were very
just
good.
Playing mind games with your mind.
The final 5 minutes were a very good 5 minutes. Okay.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with.
I feel like this time I feel like the final 5 minutes were like not very good at all.
Okay. So the garage guy comes and he's like, "It's ready." Then he leaves. And I love this part. He goes, well, I love all the parts. So he goes, coincidences? And the wife goes, yes. He's like, you ask it.
He's like, you ask it.
Or are you afraid? And I love the way that he intimidates her into doing things. And this episode is really well paced, I feel.
Okay.
He goes, all right, will we reach Columbus by tomorrow? And he's like, we're not going to. And she's like, haha. And then it says, if that's what you really want.
I mean, that's kind of what I mean. Like, there were a few answers. Like, it's at the end, it's supposed to be a coincidence, right?
I don't know, because if that other couple, like, if this stuff happened for them, then maybe it really. I don't know. I don't have a solid interpretation. Maybe I could go and analyze it frame by frame, but
you won't. Let's face it, you're not.
Well, I do have a lot of time.
I thought that she was like a very stunted female character, like resisting until he asks him until he asks her to. Like, just a couple of moments here.
Resisting what?
Like, just like she disagrees with him until she disagrees with him until he tells her something.
Until he tells her
Like,
what?
she's like, the machine is crap. He's like, okay, you go try it. And she's like, I'll try it.
Well, no, it's just because he said, or are you afraid? He was just intimidating her. So the next question she asks is, will I ever get married? And he says, well, here Don is getting the answer. He's pulling them out. And he says, the answer is obvious. And then she's getting more worried, and she's like, it's impossible to tell the fortune, isn't it? And then the answer says...
Future, not fortune.
Well, it says fortune, so... And it says, that's for you to find out. And then he said, you're just a stupid piece of junk, are you? She says. And then it says, depending on your point of view. She's like, let's go. And he says, what if it's true? And she says, especially if it's true. He keeps asking more questions.
Where are we gonna live?
Right, stuff like that. Well, yes or no questions. Are we gonna live in Columbus, etc.? Well, not Columbus. Yeah, you get the idea. So she says, let's go. And he says, no. We can't just walk away from this. And I like how this episode is two sides to a good argument. Two good sides. And she's like, are you going to let this run your life? It made you call the office. It made you stay here. And I was going to tell you where to live. Which is brilliant. The way that she realizes that this is going to affect his life because he's trying to spend his life proving to her that these are true.
Like, that was just the cheesiest thing I've ever heard. The future is in our hands. We need to take it into our hands and seize it. We love each other.
You have a wonderful mind.
And I'm just like, oh, you have a wonderful mind. Oh.
Yeah, and then that convinces him, yeah, this is stupid.
Okay,
Let's get out of here.
You know what was stupid? The monologue. It was just as cheesy as it gets. That was probably my least favorite part of the episode.
So then she's like, I don't want us to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but
we should make it happen. Let's
go.
Cheesy. Let's drive out of this. And then the guy Don says, look into the Mystic Seer is talking to the Mystic Seer. Says, let's drive out of this town, go where we want to go, whenever. And then as they exit, a worried couple walks in. They see the Mystic Seer. Oh, phew. They walk over to it, asking questions worriedly. Are we going to stay here? Where should we drive? East. And then, it's the end.
If I was lactose intolerant, I would have, like, a diet from all the cheese at the end. It was so cheesy. Like, and then Rod Serling has his closing monologue. One couple has chosen to take the future into their hands, and the other couple is just worried. And it was just like, oh man, are you like a picture? Are you like an inspirational quote on the wall next to a background? Like, it was like very, very cheesy, I thought, at the end. I don't know, the future is in our hands. You have a wonderful mind, don't waste it. It just
came to me as optimistic and powerful, the power of humans over technology.
Okay. That's not technology.
Fulfilling the human spirit. So, what do you think of this episode?
I already know what you think.
I already know what you think.
Okay, what did I think? I just thought that it was, like, kind of a decent episode, but until, like, the end. I did not like the ending at all. Because, like, you know, it was kind of fine to have it be like, oh, the machine is trash. But, like, you throw it with, like, the future is in our hands. Like,
I guess that makes sense. Do you want to give it a rating out of 10?
I don't know. I'm thinking, in the 4 to 6 range.
I'm going to give this one... It's really close to a 10, but not quite. It's not in the same camp as some of those other ones. I'm going to give that one a 9.5.
Okay.
What about you?
Okay,
what about you, Grinch?
Grinch. Just at the end.
Don't be influenced.
It was very painful for me at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that might have been probably top 5 of my least favorite moments in the Twilight Zone, that monologue. I very much didn't like it. Okay, let's see. But that's like there were some good things in the episode.
Like what?
Like like how it's this, how like he tackles her even when it wasn't gonna hit them. Yeah, that was some
But
kind of
if
good.
that didn't come across to you, then
Yeah, I would rather watch it than sleep, so I'm gonna give it a 5.5.
Okay, great. So that was our episode on Nick of Time. So 5.5. So that's a distance of 4.
Which is not as good as Mighty Casey when we got 5, right?
No, we could have gotten 5.
But I didn't choose to get 5 because I didn't think it was that bad.
It wasn't 5. It was a distance of like 4.
Didn't you give it a 3 and I give it an 8?
No, definitely not. I didn't give it a 3.
Okay.
Give it like a 4.5.
Okay. Well, we'll look at it.
Yeah, we'll look back on the tape.
We'll, like, probably
we'll have a
edit
title
something in.
here to say how this compares
biggest
to
score
the
discrepancies
ratings
to like
split.
Mirror Image, Mighty
Right.
Casey, and this probably.
Oh, wow, that was fascinating, and now we know. So we'll put our disagreements aside for our next episode, called The Lateness of the Hour is the name of the Twilight Zone episode that we're going to discuss, and the name of the In the Zone episode is going to be In the Zone, episode 2.8, The Lateness of the Hour. And we'll see you then.